Hello, and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Martin O'Neill. The Bloomington Redevelopment Commission approved an amendment to a construction contract for 2nd Street and Bloomfield Road multimodal improvements. Roy Ayton of the Bloomington Planning and Transportation Department spoke of project delays during the January 6th meeting.
There were a couple delays that were inherent in the project. The biggest one, I think, was waiting for our signal poles to come in, the lead time on those. But those delays called our inspection contract to run longer. So this addendum that we're looking at here today is we're requesting an additional $18,434.29 to pay our inspection company, HWC, for their services to get us through closeout for the project, which we anticipate should be in the next coming months. This is an NDOT federally funded project, so there's an entire closeout process that goes along with it, and it'll take probably another 3 or 4 months past that for us to finish all the paperwork for the project.
Ayton also said the project requires federal funding for certified inspections. The Richland Bean Blossom School Board established a bond for the school corporation treasurer, deputy treasurer, and extracurricular accounts treasurer. A $100,000 bond amount was approved in the January 6th meeting. Board member Brad Tucker asked Superintendent Jerry Sanders and attorney Christine Bartlett who holds the bonds.
Who do we do our bonds with?
Is it the May agency?
I believe it's through the May agency, yeah.
Okay, so it's just and it's the same people in each spot as last year, so we just renew them?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And we did check on amounts within the last couple years to make sure that they thought that those were sufficient, and they did.
Who's they?
I believe it was the May agency. It's whoever we have the bonds with, and
What's the state recommend now?
there's no specific well, you look like you were going to answer that.
Well, I thought the State Board of Accounts, the $100,000 was in line with what they recommend.
Mm-hmm. They don't have a requirement,
Right.
but they do have, that is in line with their recommendations.
The next Richland Bean Blossom School Board meeting will be held on January 21st. City of Bloomington Utilities requested to close portions of High Street and sidewalks. Planning technician Paul Kerberg spoke at the January 7th Bloomington Board of Public Works meeting.
They're replacing a failing stormwater culvert under High Street, and they will have a detour route on 2nd Street, College Mall Road, and Morse Pike.
Board member Kyla Cox-Deckard said detour signage will be posted in advance. The closure will be from January 13th to January 31st. Director of Business Operations John Kenny presented the District Unit Appeal Board, or DUAB, Financial Condition of the Corporation Report to the Monroe County School Board. Kenny spoke at their January 7th meeting.
The report is to assess the financial condition of the school corporation using the fiscal and qualitative indicators by the Distressed Unit Appeals Board, Fiscal and Qualitative Indicators Committee. The Board of Finance must review the report during this meeting. The fiscal and qualitative indicators are made available on 12/31/19 by the Distressed Unit Appeals Board. They are presented as a series of 8 graphs. The graphs are intended to provide a picture to alert DUAB and the school corporation to signs of financial distress.
Kenny said this is a new report as of last spring's legislative session. He said MCCSC shows no signs of financial distress. Board member Sue Wanzer asked Kenny about the mission of the DUAB.
DUAB, we know that is the Distressed Unit Appeals Board.
Yes.
And that was set up by the state to keep an eye on school finances so that they could help schools that might be moving into financial difficulty. Is that correct? Did I get it right?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay. So they look at every school corporation, and then if somebody seems to be having trouble, then they swoop in and try to help them?
Not sure yet.
Okay.
Their mission is much more recent, and I think right now it's more accumulation of data. I can't speak for them, but they are taking all this data from stuff that's available, I'm sure, at the Department of Education and putting into the format that they've determined over a series of months is most indicative of potential stress on a unit.
Wanzer proposed holding a public work session to discuss the graphs. The next meeting will be held on January 28th. The Monroe County Commissioners approved a contract with CLR Construction in their January 8th meeting. The project was awarded the Community Crossing Matching Grant Fund with NDOT. Commissioner Penny Githens asked Highway Director Lisa Ridge which grant cycle the grant falls under.
Well, I noticed too that the date on this was December 30th, so I assume that went into last year's kind of grant cycle. Is that it?
Yeah, actually, this one was awarded in July cycle. I think they announced it maybe September or so when they do those awards. So they do it twice a year now versus once a year, and it's $1 million cap. So any government entity is allowed to submit basically $2 million worth of projects because you would come up with your $1 million match.
The bridge will be constructed in the summer of 2020. And we'll have more from CATSweek after this.
Let's talk about sex.
What is consent?
And what's not?
Consent is based on choice.
Consent is active, not passive.
Consent is giving permission without feeling pressure.
What is not consent?
Silence.
Passed out.
Intoxicated.
Fear.
It is not consent.
God consent?
Ask.
Sex without consent is a crime. Only yes means yes.
Welcome back to CATSweek. On January 8th, Monroe County Commissioners Administrator Angela Purdy presented a contract with Harold Fish Incorporated at the Monroe County Commissioners' work session. Purdy said the contract was created to help the jail.
The issue at hand is that the grease trap in the jail kitchen totally failed, and it was apparently, I think it's the original grease trap. We knew that they were trying to actually kind of limp it along, however, it gave up the ghost. And so it requires the run of plumbing from the kitchen on the 5th floor down to the 1st floor and the installation of a new grease trap.
Purdy said the project will cost about $60,000. She said the new grease trap will save money in the long run.
Something of note, though, is it was costing us $550 a month in order to have the grease trap cleaned. This is required by the City of Bloomington. However, with the new trap in place, it's going to reduce it to $200, and it will be quarterly cleaning. So there's going to be a significant change in the cost of the cleaning. It's also going to assist us with if something was to be purposefully put down the drain in a manner to affect the functions, it's not going to affect the other areas of the Justice Building.
Purdy said Indiana code allowed for the repair. Planner Drew Myers proposed a buildable area variance for a 2-car garage to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Myers said a single-car garage variance was approved for the property in 2019. He spoke of the Lake Lemon property at the January 8th meeting.
Upon review of that application, we realized that the size of the garage had increased by 300 square feet. So we notified the builder and the petitioner about this deviance from the approved variance. And they stated that they wanted to increase the size of the garage now that they had changed their mind. And in order to do so, they would have to file for another variance.
Myers said the garage expansion causes drainage concerns. Coordinator Terry Quillman said expansion would create drainage pipe issues.
When I looked at it and worked out an inlet location and a pipe draining down to the lake, I was looking at the 1-car garage, and it looked tight to me at the time. If they're coming in with a second car or wider garage, it's really going to be crowding it, and I'd like to see a revised drawing on that. Okay. It's really getting tight between that unit and the next one to the west.
Quillman said a large tree at the edge of the property obstructs a pipe path. Property neighbor Michael Glinton owns the tree. He said drainage pipes constructed could potentially kill the tree. Glinton also had concerns about the petitioner's construction history.
But I have concerns based on the track record. Is what's approved, if you grant the variance, going to be truly what's built? And if you choose to grant the variance, again, your choice to do, I just request that there be extra efforts and requirements placed to ensure that what is constructed is truly what is permitted to be constructed.
The board tabled the petition to a February meeting in order for the petitioner to address drainage concerns. City Council member Steve Volan proposed establishing 7 additional standing committees and abolishing other committees of the Common Council.
A committee is nothing more than a subset of the legislative body, a group of council members, and not all of them. Boards and commissions are mostly citizen-driven entities. There are times when, as you heard tonight, some members of council have an ex officio seat on a given board or commission, but boards and commissions are created either by statute or by action of the council to take up a particular issue through citizen action and input. But council committees are simply a way of breaking down the work of the legislature.
Volan said committees can only make recommendations to the full council. He said this could replace the committee of the whole.
I see committees, standing committees, as a substitute for the committee of the whole. The committee of the whole is a complicated idea, but it basically means that all 9 members of council technically act as a committee, making a recommendation to ourselves at a regular session.
Volan said the current process is confusing to the public, and he encouraged district representatives to attend committee meetings concerning their districts.
I want to encourage the district representative to come to a committee meeting if they're not already on the committee. But again, we schedule them serially so that every member can attend. And we're always going to have this issue. The exhortation of us to trust each other is one I will echo. Trust us. We are your colleagues. We have done a lot together. We will do a lot together. We're going to be dependent on each other to get through all these issues together. This is a way of allowing us to specialize while giving us a little bit more time to specialize and to take time off and deliberate. It allows us to spread across the calendar issues that are controversial.
Councilmember Susan Sandberg said standing committees have been proposed 3 previous times. She was not in favor of the proposal.
We need to have good working relationships with our mayor and with his department heads and our staff in order to do the work we need to do up here and do it responsibly, do it democratically, small d, and make sure that we are, all of us, all 9 of us, serving the public in all aspects of the inner workings of this body. I would respectfully also ask that those that are just joining this august body, there is a learning curve. I'm still learning, and this is the start of my 4th term. And so when we start thinking that we're going to serve each other and the public well by becoming specialists, before we do tap into the institutional knowledge of all 9 of us up here, where we have the benefit of doing that in the committee of the whole, I think it does a disservice to our community and to our constituents.
Councilmember Kate Rosenbacher said standing committees would allow a more predictable schedule for constituents. Councilmember Jim Sims said the council needs more time to consider the change. The council postponed the proposal to the January 29th meeting. And we'll have more from CATSweek right after this.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying. Of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me. But with Girls Inc. in my corner, there for me every day, believing in me,
showing me what's possible,
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body, to say I can rather than I can't,
to say no with no apology,
to be a leader, to finish school,
to own my future,
to break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner, I will not be another statistic. I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. Monroe County Public Library Special Audience Strategist Chris Jackson proposed a fine-free library. He said many families face access barriers from late fees. He spoke at the January 8th MCPL Board of Trustees work session.
All sorts of reasons for this, of course. It can be health issues, it can be limited access to transportation, it can be working multiple jobs, it can be being a student, being a parent, being a caregiver. All sorts of things can get in the way of you being the responsible borrower you intended to be when you check the material out. And so like all other libraries in times past, we have charged late fees to try to incentivize you to bring those materials back. And yet for a significant number of users, they still have problems doing that for the reasons that I mentioned.
Jackson said that nationally, libraries are going fine-free. He said MCPL would change their notification system instead of having fines.
Currently, you build up overdue fees that can result in a total of $10 per item over a period of time once you've reached the last due date, and then 40 days later, we will bill you for the replacement cost of the item. If your total charges exceed $25, we'll also tack on a $10 collection agency fee. What we want to do is make it much simpler and only levy that replacement cost. But we want to change how we do it by both notifying you more often when you're in arrears, both before we bill and after we bill, and by moving up the bill date from the current 40 days past the due date to basically half of that, 21 days. So it's, in essence, an additional renewal we're giving you. That then becomes the hard block to checking out additional items, and that's the motivation to come back. People don't want to keep the stuff. What they want is to continue to get new stuff, to check out new library materials.
Jackson said existing overdue fines would be waived. The board will vote on their proposal in their January 15th meeting. At their January 9th meeting, the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners discussed the future of the Bloomington Farmers Market. Mayor John Hamilton said the market is very valuable to the city. Recreation Services Director Becky Higgins and Mayor Hamilton suggested the continuation of a city-run market.
The overwhelming view of the farmers of the market is to urge us to continue operating this program. And 70% of our surveyed community members call the market an essential or very important city service. The history of communities abandoning public assets or programs due to constitutional requirements is a sorry one, most poignantly exemplified by parks departments and cities decades ago abandoning public parks and pools when they didn't want to allow an end to racial segregation. And this market is a critical part of our local sustainable agriculture and our food equity efforts.
Hamilton said the city needs to protect its patrons. Community member Charlotte Zitlow said the farmers market was created to provide a community for everybody. She encouraged the city to maintain market control.
That this is a community that wants to get along with each other, that we hear a lot about loving each other. We don't love each other when we spy on each other and try to get rid of them, call them off. I think that's wrong, and I urge you strongly to retain control of the farmers market.
Market vendor Susan Welsand said she counter-protested with signs at her booth. She said the city's new contracts do not account for her freedom of speech.
This contract has nothing for me. It takes away my First Amendment rights as a vendor at the expense of all the other vendors as well. In order to protect Schooner Creek's free speech, you want to deny me the signs that I could put up to show the customers that,
please let us finish.
that the market is a welcome place where we value all. People really like the signs. I took a lot of abuse for some of the signs from some of the people that came to the market, but that was far outweighed by the people who thanked me for them, that said it made them feel more comfortable coming to market and made them want to return.
Bloomington resident Forrest Gilmore said white supremacy affects everything.
Starting way back from a history built on colonialism, genocide, slavery, Jim Crow, lynching, criminal justice, injustice, hate crimes, etc. And because white supremacy is immersed in everything, it's not everything, but because it is immersed in everything, to dismantle white supremacy, we have to dismantle things that uphold it. We have to break down things that uphold it, and that sometimes in doing that, we all, wherever we are, because it's in everything, we get tangled up in this. Right now, the farmers market is tangled up in white supremacy.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore.
Board member Kathleen Mills said that behavior that reflects poorly on the city of Bloomington is condemned in the new vendor handbook. The board voted to continue a city-run farmers market with pending review of market rules of behavior. The Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission approved demolition of a near West Side Conservation District home. Historic Preservation Program Manager Connor Hederich spoke at the January 9th meeting.
A lot of major structural issues with this home. A leaning front wall, incorrectly attached rear addition, a lot of water damage to the interior floors, walls, and ceilings. The porch is worthless. That slab's actually pointing inward, so water drains into the house.
Hederich said the Near West Side Historic District Committee did not support demolition. Neighborhood Association member Olivia Dorfman said the association never took action on the proposal.
Our association's standard practice when consulted on similar proposals is to, 1, notify the neighborhood that the matter will be discussed at an upcoming association meeting, 2, at the meeting hear from the petitioners and view their supporting documents, 3, discuss the matter as a group, and then 4, decide whether to issue a statement of support or denial.
Dorfman asked the board to postpone their vote. Commission member John Saunders said the house is too far gone. One commissioner said she found the home unsafe during a visit.
It's pretty scary. I kind of walked around. I didn't go around back. I was kind of terrified to actually walk around in the yard a little bit. It just, I wouldn't have the neighborhood go inside. If you want them to look in, I'd say open the door and let them peek, but I wouldn't be having anybody walking around in there.
Commissioner Jeff Golden said he has not seen many homes in worse condition. The board voted in favor of demolition. And that's all for CATSweek. Thanks for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Martin O'Neill.